I'm incredibly grateful to be here at this point in the journey with you all. And thanks for everyone who's joining me today. I see my supervisor and mentor, Marina McBride, is here from Doctors of BC. Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit about me. I'm a cisgender female. I use the pronouns she, her, and I don't come from class privilege. However, I do recognize the privilege I have as a Canadian citizen and who speaks English as a first language, and as well as a settler on the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Shishla nations. Shishla territories are where I was raised, and that's located on the Sunshine Coast in town also known as Sechelt. You can see the territories here in the background. Beautiful and just incredibly grateful to be on these lands and learning and living here. I always get a lot from the land in terms of being able to get through. The program was very helpful for that, and just connecting with nature, getting outside as much as I could in my studies really helped me get through. And my area of focus was global health, however, with a strong interest in public health feminisms and also Indigenous health. And so my practicum was at Doctors of BC with the Family Practices Services Committee, primarily in an active student learner and project assistant role. The Family Practice Services Committee is one of 4 joint collaborative committees that is partnered up with the Ministry of Health and Doctors of BC, who works to transform primary care across the province. So this team works virtually, and I was able to join the team virtually. And I was actually one of the first, or the first practicum student in the organization. So I sought to create a positive experience for everyone and give a good experience for the organization to want to bring more students back. And so 3 of the experiential learning goals that I set out to achieve was how to work effectively in interprofessional teams. That was really something that I want to gain experience with. Also professionalism, so how to further develop professional etiquette and presence through communications, etc. And really what really drew me to this practicum and what I was most excited to learn about is policy operationalization. So understanding health policy operationalization and change management. So a big theme of my practicum was knowledge exchange. This is very much the nature of a lot of the work that the primary care transformation team I worked with does. So holding knowledge exchange activities at a local, regional, and provincial level, which I was able to participate in various ways, attending and observing how the team facilitated knowledge exchange at these levels, and as well as joining the primary care transformation team weekly and joining their team meetings. I also got to attend a provincial health emergency management workshop that was an opportunity for me to play the role of note taker, which is also a very big theme of the work of the team. So capturing a lot of what's being discussed among various physicians and joint collaborative committees. And I got to also work with primary care networks and the divisions of family practice, as well as Indigenous specific cultural safety and humility, including a provincial webinar, as well as a cultural safety and humility working group. And as I mentioned, I was the first practicum student to come on with the organization. So I really sought to contribute to future practicum students' experience. So one way I was able to do that was create a student introduction template to be shared with various teams to introduce students before they meet with various team members, and also developed an evaluation framework that really helped to guide students and their supervisors along in terms of evaluating their learning, and assisted in producing a standard operating procedure that will be used for the future in the organization. And as a result, I contributed to structuring a practicum experience for future students and their supervisors. I connected the coordinator, Heather Elmer, with Doctors of BC and Marina McBride, and specifically who's offered to be a point person for the future. And also, as a result, helped open the door for future students, which is something I am probably most proud of in my role. Some areas of growth. This is an example of the evaluation framework that I helped set up for students. So using the 5-point Likert scale to create evaluation questions for the learning experience. So working with my learning goals, I took the evaluation for myself in weeks 2 and 11, and where I saw quite a bit of progress was the first 2 questions. But where I saw the most was understanding health policy operationalization and change management, which I got to experience by having such a diverse experience, hands-on experience working at the macro and micro levels of systems change within the organization that they are currently leading. And my commitment to truth and reconciliation, I feel is best summed up for this role and for my future in call to action number 18, which is to recognize and implement the healthcare rights of Aboriginal people as identified in international law, constitutional law, and under the treaties. One way I can do this is contributing to Indigenous health research and knowledge mobilization using a social determinant of health lens and human rights focus, and also using a two-eyed seeing approach to systems change in the future, which bridges Western science and Indigenous ways of knowing in order to decolonize existing colonial institutions, spaces, and services. And one way I was able to do this in my practicum is by doing some work around the In Plain Sight report, as many of you are aware of, is an independent review of Indigenous specific racism in BC's healthcare system. And I did a deep dive into the report. I summarized the purpose of the report, key findings and recommendations that were applicable to primary care, which is the main focus of Doctors of BC. And I presented this to the interior divisions of family practice and helped to build a discussion around the implications for primary care. So we all met in the evening, and several members of the interior divisions of family practice joined the discussion. And after that event, I produced a summary of the discussion to be circulated among colleagues for future knowledge mobilization. One of my guiding PHSP values throughout my work, which very much reflected the nature of the Family Practices Service Committee, who's a joint collaborative committee, is collaborative action across all sectors, including government organizations, non-government organizations, nonprofit organizations, community coalitions, and interest groups. For example, right now there's a big push across BC to create primary care networks. And one way that decisions are made on the funding that's allocated for those is by collaborating with the First Nations Health Authority, Doctors of BC, and the Ministry of Health. And a key knowledge area integrated into my practicum is developing knowledge and skills required to work effectively in multidisciplinary teams to provide high quality services in health and community care. That's very much something I was able to contribute to in my role, but also get experience with seeing how an effective multidisciplinary team works. And very much the team that I worked with was multidisciplinary, coming from all different backgrounds. And yes, to provide high quality services in health and community care across the province. Final insights is something that Harmony Johnson speaks to, who oversaw the research of the In Plain Sight report. And leading while learning is something that I feel is really important for leading culture change and specifically anti-racism work. The fact is that we're all learning together and we're on this journey. And this is something that actually came up in my practicum, was something that I really admired in the leaders that I observed doing their work, was that they had the humility to be leading and learning at the same time. And I think that that's actually a big strength in leadership that I had not previously understood. And also having the right questions when leading culture change. It's often more about having the right questions to build dialogue than coming to the table and having the right answers. I found this to be not only really helpful for facilitating the work and was very much a key in facilitating the work, but also just a relief as an individual, just to know that coming into circles like that you don't always have to have the right answers. And yeah, it's a continual learning journey that we're all on. So, and also, you can't boil an ocean, but you can start with a cup. This is a great quote that my mentor shared with me, and I feel is really relative to systems change work, but also just the work in general of public health and social policy, is that we take on really big topics sometimes, especially in global health. So this relates a little bit to think global, act local as well. And yeah, just working in the best way you can in the position you're in and the role you're in to make the most difference. And I really believe that there is a ripple effect of that. And finally, when you feel like the mountains will never end, remember to be grateful for the climb. This really helps me when I'm feeling extremely overwhelmed with the work, and this program can be very demanding. And then along with the practicum as well, I was doing my final credit for public health and social policy, which was the role of knowledge in global health. So I was doing a course at the same time and had some moments of overwhelm. And I came to the team meeting one week with this, and we actually met every Monday and shared gratitude. And that was something that I really appreciated about the team, is that there's a real focus on gratitude. And that's something that, with the hard work that the team is doing, is something that really uplifts the team, and I think is really important to integrate into your work. And it certainly uplifted me in terms of feeling overwhelmed and just remembering to be grateful for the journey and for the climb, because it is an absolute privilege to be in higher education, especially as someone who doesn't come from class privilege. I'm very aware of that. And finally, a big thank you to my fellow scholars. I've learned a lot about myself personally from where I started in the program to where I am now. I definitely feel like I've evolved a lot, just in terms of, yeah, being able to come together in a group and work on things with deadlines and all that. So, and also the faculty of PHSP has been incredibly supportive and encouraged me to go further with my learning, and has been a big influence in my life, both academically and professionally. And finally, Marina McBride, who's my supervisor and mentor with Doctors of BC, and the team at Doctors of BC, who's been just incredibly supportive and really gave me a lot of good feedback, and including the presentation that I was able to give to the interior divisions of family practice around Indigenous specific cultural safety and humility, of the conversations being valuable, and throughout my work, really bringing my heart to the work, which is something I hope I can continue to do and that I was able to do in the program. And that completes my presentation. Thank you again for everyone to join me. I'm incredibly grateful again to be here at this point in the journey with you all. So big congratulations to everyone. Thank you.